Have you ever wondered how far you could go if an AI scouted the perfect online business and did it while you slept? Well, today I'm welcoming back Blake Hutchison. He's the CEO of Flippa, and we're going to talk about Lauren AI. It's a new tool built on top of Flippa's vast data set and offers real sale outcomes. Think less trawling and more matching. Because Lauren AI scans millions of businesses every week, reads the signals that matter, and lets buyers craft a plain English mandate that returns hyper-specific opportunities, and even handles low-cost outreach at just $1.99 a contact, which feels a lot like moving the old analyst playbook into a faster and fairer flow. So today I want to get into this and learn how technology is changing sourcing, and we'll also find out more about Flippa, this global online marketplace for buying and selling digital assets, including everything from websites, online businesses, mobile apps, domains and software as a service products. It's incredibly cool what they do here, but enough scene setting from me. Let's get Blake back onto the podcast now. So a massive warm welcome back to the show, Blake. For anyone that's missed our previous conversations, can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure, Neil. Great to see you again. Hope you've been really well. I am Blake and I'm the CEO at Flippa. We're the number one platform globally to buy and sell online businesses. So that's a really cool platform because we give entrepreneurs the opportunity to exit and we give budding owners the opportunity to acquire a business. So think about it as eBay for buying a business. And you and I have had a few chats. My background is vast and varied. I've worked in multiple markets around the world. I'm currently based in Australia, Neil. And for those on the other side of the world, you can hear my very thick accent. But I've spent time in Tokyo. I've spent time in New York. I've spent time in San Francisco, currently working from here in Australia. I've worked across multiple different business models. I've worked for Xero, which is cloud accounting software. I ran Australia's fastest growing online travel agency, which was Luxury Escapes. And of course, I'm now the CEO of Flippa. I've been here for 7 years and we help entrepreneurs to exit.
And I would urge anybody listening to check out some of those previous conversations. I think you perfectly described Flippa there as this kind of eBay for buying businesses and equally helps people exit their business too. Really great site. In fact, while listening to this, I would urge people listening to go on the site, have a look around, get a feel for it. But one of the things that put you back on my radar, why I was excited to get you back on the podcast, is you've recently announced something called Lauren AI. Tell me more about this and walk me through what it is and how it changes maybe the traditional approach to deal sourcing.
Yeah. So look, let's just go back to the vision. Really what we're here to do is provide exit and ownership opportunities for the 99%. And so first and foremost, most people who have heard the term M&A and most people who work in M&A are actually tailoring their careers and their efforts toward the 1%. That's relates to, $100 million plus businesses, obviously into the 9-figure context. Now that's not Flippa. Flippa is for the masses. Flippa is for side hustlers, for acquisition entrepreneurs, and for strategic investors who are looking for smaller assets to bolt onto their existing portfolio and or their existing companies. And so really the challenge that we're trying to solve with Lauren AI is deal sourcing. So of course, people come to Flippa to find a deal, but what happens if they don't find it? And in most cases, Neil, they don't, because each asset can only be bought by one person. And so what we ultimately discovered was that for the 230,000 odd net new buyers that register with Flippa each year, the reality is that most come seeking a deal and most can't find what they're looking for. And that's because they have a very specific mandate, they have a very specific budget, they have a very specific skill set, and they'd like a deal that matches that. Or they miss out on something that actually sells and it's sold to some other buyer. And so what do you do? Well, what you would tend to do in a traditional M&A setting is you would pay some firm to go and find you a deal, or you would go and hunt it out yourself. But that's a pretty cumbersome, burdensome, and ultimately expensive process. And so Lauren AI is, as you would expect, it's AI. So it's a proprietary LLM, which basically means that we have this incredible data set. amassed over 15 years of trade here at Flippa. And so from that, we can index what a good business is, the attributes of a business, and how a business is valued. From that, we're able to basically index the web. We're able to index the web much like Google does for search, but we do it for M&A. And we've now got these cohorts of assets that can be organized and now perfectly matched to any given mandate. So as you can imagine, just like GPT or Claude, there's a natural language mandate builder. So I say, Neil, I'm Lauren. What would you like to buy? And you tell me what you'd like to buy. I then query that a little bit further and I say, Neil, that's great, but what's your budget? You tell me that. And Neil, what are your skill sets? What are you good at? What type of asset are you looking for that matches what you're trying to achieve either now or into the future? So once you've created that natural language mandate, Lauren gets to work and Lauren will provide you a set of opportunities. Now, the critical thing is here, we have, as I said, indexed that set of opportunities against every other asset we've ever seen before on Flippa. And we're now critically allowing you to then directly outreach to those prospects. And so what you would typically do is you would pay someone, that person would go and talk to those people. They might call them, they might email them, they might jump on LinkedIn. All of that is covered within the Lauren AI experience. So I set my mandate, find a prospect, and I outreach. And that all comes at a cost of $1.99 per outreach. So it's deliberately a low-cost way of getting in front of a preferred set of prospects. And we're pretty excited about it.
I just love what you've created here and how by using AI, you've been able to automate discovery, valuation, matching, and even personalized outreach at scale. But I'm curious, just to hammer home the point here and the kind of ROI and the problem that we're solving, how does this differ from, let's say, the traditional approach that might be expensive, manually sourcing work that's usually handled by third-party advisors, etc.? Tell me more about that and how this is different from that traditional approach.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I'd say, let me just articulate the origin story here. So I was talking to our head of product and I said, have a look at this. There's 232 buyers who have missed out on this deal, right? So this was an asset on Flip and 232 buyers were inside the deal room. Each one of them had signed a non-disclosure agreement. Each one of them had inquired. In many cases, they'd put forward an LOI and begun due diligence. And so it's sold to one person. So that's 231 buyers who have missed out of the 232. And I said to him, why can't we simply show them other like assets? And he said, well, we do that. We've got the entire marketplace that basically organized. And I said, no. I want to show them all the assets, whether they're for sale or not, globally, that are very similar. And he said, right. So you want me to index the web and show them every possible opportunity? And I said, absolutely. And he said, well, why? And I said, because M&A has two parts to it. It has on market and there's an off market. And so Flippa is an on market. And so first and foremost, if you don't find what you're looking for, then you can't buy something. Okay. So now to the full part of your question. Today, what happens is if I want to buy something, I either hire an analyst and they will take my mandate. They will write me a report, which basically covers my mandate, the universe of opportunities, how they think about organizing that list of opportunities. And then ultimately, they will hopefully give you some sense of a playbook, which is them how they will go out and seek out those opportunities for you. They will then do that. So they will go to those owners direct. They will call you, email you, text you, perhaps inquire via LinkedIn. Hopefully they do all those things for you. Now, just to be clear, we had a look at this. Now, the smallest possible deal sourcing and outreach retainer is $2,500 a month, but in most cases, they're $15,000 to $20,000. Now, then they'll come with a success fee. So there's no guarantee that an analyst will find what you're looking for. You're still going to pay that retainer. in most cases, they're doing that for many, many people over. And as a result of that, it's a pretty inefficient experience. And so really what we are saying is, if we are trying to make as many people around the world benefit from ownership, which is really what Flippa's about, then we have to go beyond the on-market and we have to have an off-market solution. Off-market solutions exist today, but they're not technology-enabled. This is a technology-enabled deal origination.
And what types of businesses is Lauren AI indexing right now, just to bring that to life? And how broad is its reach across, I don't know, everything from SaaS, e-commerce, apps, publishing, maybe even YouTube? I don't know. Tell me more about that.
So this is the great thing about an LLM, right? Because it's far more powerful than any individual could possibly handle. And so at its core, what we've got is this index. It works much like Google's, or it autonomously indexes the web. And to answer your question, all the major digital asset classes. So SaaS, e-commerce, online publishing, and next generation media. So YouTube channels, newsletters, podcasts, these types of things. So it's microservices architecture for those people who are relatively technical on the phone. And we're evaluating in excess of 1 million businesses every week. There's over 5 million currently in the database. And so the intelligence layer on top of that is basically a customized LLM and ML. So that's machine learning. So the LLM will basically analyze the qualitative and quantitative business attributes. It's a business model, the marketing strategy, the technology stack. So the things it actually uses to operate, the product mix, the traffic data, how many employees the asset has, where it's based. The machine learning layer will estimate the enterprise value of the asset based on Flippa's quantitative signals that we have got through our proprietary data set of sold assets. So we will then look at the internal set of assets that have historically sold or are on the current on-market, traffic growth, financials, age, team size. You then bring those two things together and you've got the math behind the match. And so as a result of that, Lauren AI is very hyper specific. It's far better than just using filters or keyword search. It takes your entire mandate and then gives you a good set of options.
And there will be some people listening thinking Lauren AI, it sounds incredibly cool, but is it just a smarter search tool or something they could do in ChatGPT? And of course, there are many big differences here. So just tell me a little bit more about the differences between other things out there that people might be using and this engine that you've built here.
Yeah, so I think the key thing is, to some extent, it is another a way to search, actually, Neil. And we won't shy away from that. The reality is the world is moving to natural language search.
Yeah.
And so Lauren AI will ultimately allow you to peruse the on-market data set as well, because we've proven this, that whilst it wasn't the original use case for Lauren's actually better at searching Flippa's on-market than Flippa's existing search experience is. So to some extent, it actually is just a fancy new search engine. However, the key thing is here that what GPT does not have and what Claude does not have is Flippa's proprietary data set. So what is the proprietary data set? Well, the proprietary data set is the 1.6 million buyers who have registered with Flippa historically, as I said, just in excess of 200,000 each year. And we know what they want, what they've looked at, what they've put offers in for, what they've done due diligence on, and what they've ultimately purchased. And as a result of that, when another buyer pops up that looks similar, we have a graph neural network that basically creates that similarity. It says, here's Neil. This is what Neil wants. Based on everything Neil says, he reminds us of this cohort over here. So it throws you in that cohort and then asserts, but gets smarter over time, that you will have a similar preference set. Okay. Then you have the second proprietary data set. Now, the second proprietary data set, which no one else on earth has, is trading more digital assets than anyone else in history. And as a result of that, We know the average order value of more e-commerce businesses. We know the refund rate of e-commerce businesses. We know the growth rate of e-commerce businesses. We know the seasonality of e-commerce businesses. We know when fashion e-com businesses sell better than health and wellness e-commerce businesses. We have all of this data because Flippa also sits on 15 different data integrations: Stripe, Shopify, PayPal, Amazon, BigCommerce. So that proprietary data set there can inform so much about what we're now looking at for Lauren AI purposes. And so that really is the difference. I can certainly go to GPT right now and I can say, hey, I want to buy something. What should I buy? The problem is it won't know enough about other buyers similar to you and what they've bought. And it won't have the index of data at its disposal to infer what other businesses that you might like would be worth and or their attributes.
And what I think is possibly bigger than the AI and the technology we're talking about here is how it all comes back to your core mission to almost serve and create opportunities for the 99% of people out there and enable anyone anywhere in the world to be a business owner of sorts. So if we look at that bigger picture, how do you see AI reshaping the M&A space and ultimately lowering the barriers for both buyers and indeed sellers?
Yes, this is a critical point. So Flippa plays in a area of the M&A ecosystem which is accessible to all. So we do deals from $10,000 up to $10 million. Okay, $10,000 up to $10 million. And so that means it's almost universally accessible. And so our broader goal is ownership for the 99%. Why? Because we believe that you get to control the decisions you make. We believe that entrepreneurs feel empowered. We believe that you can generate supplemental income or replace your full income by being an entrepreneur. And we ultimately believe that digital assets are the way of the future. And so the key thing is here that it will make that more possible for more people. So that bespoke pipeline of matched businesses ready for outreach puts at your fingertips greater access to online businesses. And so it removes that manual and laborious effort that a lot of people are going through themselves. Then your broader question of how does AI change M&A? Well, we believe in a big way. And the reason we believe in a big way is because the M&A process is deliberately intimidating. The whole industry has made it deliberately intimidating. The reality is the relationship management side of M&A will continue forever, in my opinion. And that's a really critical part. But there's a bunch of other M&A services which can be handled by agents. And so we're talking about agentic AI here. And so, for example, we see on the marketplace first-time buyers struggling with deal structuring and negotiation. So if I'm new to buying a business, I don't know that seller financing is a deal structuring option. And I don't know what the interest rate should be set at. And I don't know what the amortization schedule length should be. These things come naturally to us because we can see that happening every day on the platform. So an agent within the platform will say, Neil, I can see you're looking at this $180,000 e-commerce business. It's based in the UK. It sells candles. It's been growing for 3 years straight. Their asking price is $180,000. Here are a couple of deal structures that you might want to consider. Which one would you like to choose? And so that educational layer of M&A will be presented to you via agents. In addition to that, due diligence. If I'm connected to the data source, the bank feed, obviously on a permission-only basis, the bank feed, Shopify, Stripe, Amazon if I sell there as well, Google Analytics, and I've got inventory management tooling, etc., set up around my e-commerce business. That can all be queried using AI, and a report can be created that informs you of the nature of that business and how it operates. If you take something like writing an LOI, so Flippa has templates, but a template is nowhere near as good as a fully customizable LOI that suits you, your jurisdiction, your deal structure, and the type of asset you're buying, i.e. YouTube versus, say, SaaS or ecom. There's nuances in all of these digital assets and deals. And so we believe that there are 4 to 5 clear areas where agentic is going to transform at least small business M&A and in the future institutional level M&A too.
And you've also been incredibly busy because alongside Lauren AI, I've also recently read that you've launched Flip and Raise with Seed Legal. So what problem were you trying to solve for founders with this offering? Tell me more about this. And again, feels like another exciting venture.
Yeah, I mean, so Flip is a challenging business in a sense so global, and entrepreneurs are so distributed in nature. And so we've always had a cross-border platform, which basically enables a buyer in one market to buy from a seller in another market. A couple of years ago, we started getting inquiries from entrepreneurs who said, well, can I tap into your universe of investors and buyers and pitch them for investment? And so not that long ago, we launched this thing called Flippa Invest. It's essentially a capital raising platform. It puts an entrepreneur in front of an accredited and or sophisticated investor and allows them to take money off the table and raise some capital. Now, the issue is that product, for legal reasons and compliance reasons, has only been accessible to American-based businesses. So we were having a conversation with Seed Legals, who provides an outstanding set and suite of services armed and tailored for entrepreneurs who are looking to get either set up, their corp set up, or other just startup-related legal needs. And we said to them, you know, we're aware of this thing called the Delaware Flip, which is essentially where a British founder, or frankly, a founder from anywhere other than the US, can essentially quickly spin up their asset in an alternative market, the alternative market being the USA. And so the Delaware Flip is really expensive. And so we've said with Seed Legals, can you provide that service to our customers in a productized form? And they said, yeah. And we said, okay, well, we will match that with the raising capability now for UK-based founders. So if you can give us a productized version of the Delaware Flip, we will then add the raising component for British-based founders. And so now with the Flip and Raise, you basically flip your asset from UK into the US. You become a Delaware registered C Corp or LLC, I should say. And then you basically use the Flippa Invest platform to go and raise from our 75,000 plus US-based accredited investors.
That is incredibly cool. And obviously you're in Australia. I'm in the UK. We've got a lot of people listening throughout the US. Do you have any examples or stories of how maybe a UK startup has done this Delaware Flip and connected directly with US investors on Flippa Invest? Is there any stories you can share around that?
Oh, look, I must admit, Neil, I wish I could. I mean, it's a couple of weeks old.
Yeah.
I understand there's 15 or so businesses in the pipeline who have started the process. But essentially what occurs is that Seed Legals takes you through their process initially, which basically assesses your business for fit and begins the process of registering the business in Delaware. And once that registration has occurred, you then move through to the Flippa Invest platform. You set up your IM or your pitch deck. You state how much you're looking to raise. You can either have a direct raise or a SPV, which is a special purpose vehicle. And as a result of that, a direct raise enables one or a few investors to directly sit on your cap table, or an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, is more equivalent to, it's not crowdfunding, but it's more equivalent to that in the sense that you would have many parties sitting within one line item within your cap table. And so it's the very beginning of us trying to offer the Flippa Invest service out to many more markets around the world.
And something else we've got to shout about today is you've got 80,000 plus accredited investors already on the platform. So from your point of view here, what kind of opportunities are currently opening up for those early stage founders that might be listening today? And where do you see this heading in the next few years? It feels like there's so much up for grabs and so many big changes, which means opportunities for more, the 99% to bring it full circle.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. I mean, I think that, clearly what we are here to do is democratize exit and ownership of the 99%, which means we're going to have to keep releasing these services. And so I guess the first opportunity is if you are a founder, regardless of where you are, Flippa has extraordinarily strong global buy-side liquidity available to you. And so what that means is if you're a UK-based founder and you're looking to exit, you can use Flippa and we will give you access to this monster network of buyers, primarily in the US, but global as well. And I guess a big example of that is the acquisition by the online trivia company based in San Francisco called Sporkle of a Finnish-based company called Typing Test. And so I remember speaking to the founder and CEO of Sporkle. His name is Ali. He is based in San Francisco. And he said, the trouble with this is a lot of the assets that I'm interested in aren't based in the US. And that creates some complexities. One, you've got to find them. Two, deal structuring, jurisdiction, all of these types of things make it difficult. The good news is that entrepreneurs are based all over the world. And so they're creating these compelling assets that so many Americans are interested in. And ultimately, used Flippa. He registered his intent. Our matching engine connected him directly. And he was able to then inquire. And this Finnish founder ultimately sells in the mid 7 figures to a San Francisco-based company that he'd never heard of and could never have probably envisaged contacting himself. And so what I think, to answer your question, all of these services make more possible is 1, global trade, 2, more access to exit opportunities. And let's face it, exits have historically been considered the landscape of big business. And the reality is all entrepreneurs try hard and many entrepreneurs create something of value. And so that value can be realized now in a way that was probably never before possible. Combination of us having a global marketplace and AI making that easier than ever before.
And I think that's a powerful moment to end on. And one of the things that I love about your journey here is you've been hugely successful in your own right, but I just love how you're leveraging technology to lower the barriers and help create opportunities for the 99% of people out there. Purely, it's incredibly inspiring for me, and it will be for people listening. But of course, if we were to take a peek behind the curtain at your career, none of us are able to achieve any degree of success without a little help along the way. So is there a particular person that you might be grateful towards, maybe helped you get you where you are today? Maybe they saw something in you early on in your career. Who would that person be and why? Let's give them a little shout out.
Oh, look, it's hard to go past my wife, actually, Neil, I reckon. She's American, I'm Australian, and we met in San Francisco. And I'd say, I have a lot to thank San Francisco for because it ultimately gave me an itch and gave me the wanted desire to scratch that itch. And throughout that process, I became an entrepreneur. I became more entrepreneurial in my mindset, and ultimately, I had to convince her to move to Australia because my first business was a copycat business. And so, she had to quit her career, move to the other side of the world where she didn't know anyone, had never visited here before, and gave me this opportunity to do something I love and gave me the opportunity to lose a lot of my own money and lose a lot of investors' money. And you've got to have someone around you who is actually willing to go through the really tough moments that egg you on through all of that and give you the freedom to operate within that playground. And so being an entrepreneur is hard. Being a CEO is hard. Running a business is hard. Growing a business is even harder. And you've got to have these people around you who just continue to egg you on and continue to support you through best efforts and your ambition. And she's that person. I'm very grateful for that.
That's a beautiful answer there. And as you said, incredibly special person to quit her life, her friends, family, move to the other side of the world, selfishly support you. But I would say that listening to you today, it's not about you and your journey. It is a real team effort that has made everything possible here. So a quick shout out to your wife there. And for everybody listening that just wants to find out more information about Flippa, Lauren AI, and anything we talked about today, where should they go?
Yeah, so look, flippa.com is where it's at. You can get a free valuation. You can check out Lauren AI. You can just play around and check out the types of businesses that are for sale and imagine one day owning one of those. So it's all freely accessible there until you ultimately go and transact. So a lot to look at. You can also just say hello to me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you heard me on Neil's show, and I'd love to acknowledge that and say thank you to you, Neil, because you've got an amazing podcast. You've got great guests, and people should keep listening to you too.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me again today. And we've talked a lot around the technology, Lauren AI, the platforms you're building, the partnerships. But ultimately, if we strip all that away, it's just lowering the barrier, making it easier for people to own their own business and exit their own business. I'd love how you're using technology for this. So a pleasure as always. And just thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Neil.
After listening to Blake there, what would change in your week if finding, valuing and contacting the right business took hours, not months? I think Blake's message was clear today. If you want to own or exit, the gate is open wider than it used to be. Lauren AI is turning vague hunting into targeted matching. Agentic tools demystifying terms and structures, and the takeaway for me is simple. Ownership becomes a real option when all that busy work shrinks and the path is explained in plain English. So here's your nudge today. Write a mandate, price your time, and test a conversation with a seller or investor, because momentum starts with one step that you actually take. So if AI can help you close the distance between intent and action, you got to ask yourself, what will you ask it to find for you this week? Love to hear your thoughts on. Have a look at Flippa. Have you bought a business? Have you exited a business? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too, and anything we talked about. Techblogwriter@outlook.com, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. Love to hear your thoughts on this one as always, but I'll be back again tomorrow with another guest. Bye for now.